Here we are.
Wednesday Night Live.
Law and crime, law and disorder. I almost said law and crime because we're doing a lot of those shows as well.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, thank you all for joining us tonight. We got some intriguing things to talk about that we've been talking about for a couple of weeks now, and a new one. So Dan, what do we got coming?
Yeah, there's so many high-profile court cases going on in the criminal justice system in this country right now, and we're going to talk about the Travis Decker case tonight and some of our perspectives on what happened there. He's the wingnut that killed his three daughters and is on the run in Washington State. We're also going to touch on two that just came to a culmination in the past 24 hours or so, and they're big, high profile. We'll talk about that, Idaho, and our good friend Sean Puffy Diddy Idiot Combs. I say with all the greatest of respect. And we will be back with that. Do not go anywhere. There we are, and we're back just like that.
Just like that.
Just like that. We really enjoy these Wednesday night shows because we get a chance to chime in on stuff that's going on, and this is not a happy story. But before we get into the Travis story, let's talk about those other two cases that just had resolutions in the past 24 hours. Tom, which one?
Yeah,
You
the
first?
the Koberger case out in Idaho. Listen, was a tragedy. Was a horror show. Was
Mhm.
I mean, you think of, and we think of it, different things that because of what we did. Walking into that crime scene is a nightmare,
Mhm.
and just thinking of those cops and those detectives who had to deal with that. But the parents and everything, and this was a shock. This was I been following it to a point because it just gets so stretched out. You can't keep on top of it all day, and what we have going on in our lives. But this was, I think, the biggest shock of them all, with him taking a plea, 4 counts of murder, which doesn't happen a lot,
Mhm.
to stay alive and get the death penalty off of him. A lot of controversy with that decision, with telling the parents and not involving the parents, and which I get, Dan, it's a tough call for a DA.
It's a
The
very tough
plea is
call.
you got him,
Yeah.
you got him. And as we just saw in Diddy, with Karen Reed, with OJ, you leave stuff up to juries,
You
you
never
better
know.
be prepared for the worst.
You never know. Because every juror comes in with things in their mind, biases, opinions, feelings. You never know what you're going to get from a jury. So I do understand why the DA would make the move they made
Hmm.
to ensure that he would get life in prison for his crime. I don't like the family not being consulted with. To me, that's not right. Always want to talk to your victims, I think, in my opinion. But this guy Kohlberger, not only did he brutally kill 4 innocent young college students in Moscow, Idaho, where that kind of stuff simply doesn't happen,
Mm.
he put the world through this whole circus of court appearances and all this other stuff that he put everybody through, and the family has to suffer through all of it, constantly being reminded and never getting a chance to move on in any way, shape, or form from the pain of their loss. So I'm pissed off at him for everything, but as much for that, right? I mean, this is just, you don't do that.
Yeah, and you know what? If you plead guilty, you knew you were.
Hmm.
And don't tell
Yeah.
me his lawyers didn't know. So you went through the charade for
Hmm.
2 years, what you said, baiting along the parents and the media and everything else for what? You knew what the evidence was. You knew
Right.
they had you,
Yeah.
but I'm with you with not involving the. Could you imagine just getting, you're going through you lost your kid, you lost your child,
Hmm.
number one.
Yep.
You're going through this for 2 years and you get an email from the DA. Hey, by the way, guys,
Yeah.
this is what we decided.
I would
Sorry
be
for your loss.
I would be furious. You know what I've seen, Tom, and I've seen this in the U.S. attorney's offices on cases that I worked that were death penalty cases approved by the U.S. Attorney General, where the U.S. Attorney's Office doesn't want to go for the death penalty because
Mm.
they have personally held beliefs against it.
Yeah.
Now, there are
Right.
plenty of prosecutors who simply don't believe in the death penalty,
Right.
and you're allowed to
Which
believe
is
what
their
you
right,
want.
which is their prerogative.
Right.
That's fine.
But the
You
law
know.
is the law. The law
Right.
calls for it. It's part of the sentencing guidelines for that conviction.
Yep.
So if you don't have the chops to get in there and do the job as per the law, maybe you shouldn't be a prosecutor. Maybe there's another line of work for you. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
not that
No, I agree.
I want to feed blood of the family's need for vengeance, but by the same token,
But
maybe that,
now, yeah, right. And now, you have to wait, and what's going to happen, man. This idiot is going to do an interview,
of
and you're
course
going
he
to have to
is.
sit there and listen to this guy talk and his words and whatever he's going to say. He's going to do it, because that's just the thing. There's going to be a series, a documentary, whatever it is, and this idiot's going to give an interview.
Yep.
And these parents have to live with listening to that. Not that they're going to watch it, but they may. But that's the outcry of it. And I get it, man. I get it. If there was a case that the death penalty should be enacted for, the reason death penalties were put into play, it's this
Right.
crap.
Exactly. 4 innocent people in bed at night in their off-campus apartment at a university. Come on. I
Right.
mean, if you've got a desire to kill people, take it out on something else or
Yeah.
some other place, not innocent people. Pick a
And
fight
just
with
stalk
somebody.
them too. I mean, creepy, the selfie he's all that. I
Yeah.
mean, he's the epitome of just bizarre and spooky.
And evil. He's an evil dude. That's all there is
Evil.
to it.
That's
And
it.
he's a
So,
narcissist. He likes seeing himself in the paper. You can tell that.
oh yeah. Yep, absolutely. Hey, listen, we've said it. How many times do we say it on Gold Shields and everything? Serial killers, you're not famous till you get caught.
That's right.
You're not. If no one knows who you are, you're not going to be famous.
It's not enough that their work is known.
Right.
They want to be known.
And that was a David Berkowitz thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was a Son of Sam thing.
Yep.
When that kind of phrase came out, that you're not famous till you get caught.
Right.
So we're going to keep an eye on this, and just until it's all done, keep updating and talking about it a little bit. And then we had
our good friend, who we love so much and respect so much.
The case we never thought would end, and it just
Right.
ended in a way you can't be surprised. I mean, I wasn't shocked, because I don't trust juries. That's all.
Right.
I mean, it's that simple. You just don't. And you have that much evidence about stuff and the way he acted, and you have the prostitution charge. Maybe it's me. I've only did the job for 30 years. You did it for 20. We did it 50 combined.
Right.
If you have the trafficking prostitution charge,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have a human trafficking charge, that's got to get explained to me.
Mm-hmm. I don't get it either.
It
doesn't make any sense. But that's a jury, because they can cherry pick from the charges. And they have 5 separate charges. They convicted him on 2, and they left out the more serious ones. And I think what the explanation that I've seen originally, and it may come to be different, is the jury just flat out, they looked at these women who willingly ran around the country and the world with Diddy engaging in these things as, well, now they're pissed off because he stopped paying them and all this other stuff. And now they cry foul. And they said, well, it's not quite as believable as if he snatched somebody off the street and unwillingly made him participate. They all were there for the drugs, the money, the rent, the bling, all of it. So now all of a sudden they're trying to act like, oh, he abused me. Well, he did, but you kind of went along with it, didn't you? Because there was benefits, right? And that's not to put anybody down. They may have legitimately been victimized in many ways, but the jury didn't see it that way necessarily.
Yeah, and that's why you don't trust jurors, because they just, what? I said this to someone the other day. When you get a case of this magnitude with a celebrity like Diddy, you hope the jury just sees it as a person, but that's almost impossible. He is who he is, and, I believed these women, their stories, because of some of the things you heard and saw in corroboration of it, and the video of him beating the hell out of Cassie at a, that's not a one-time thing. That just didn't, what, I'm mad, I'm going to do this. That was an ongoing thing. And, you feel bad for them. They took the leap, and it's not easy to come forward with a case like this and put it out on the line to get him. And they did that. And you know what? Dan, you know it just as well as I do, probably a little more because you did more with them. This is a huge black eye for the Southern District.
Absolutely. They took a Southern District. We've talked about this before. We both worked with them extensively.
Mm-hmm.
When they throw behind a big high profile case, they are confident they're going to get that conviction.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, they didn't. And you have to wonder why.
Yeah.
Could it be believability of the witnesses? Could it be the jurors themselves who had biases or, for or against this Combs guy? I don't know. We'll learn more in the future days because, as you know, people can't keep their mouths shut. Jurors will speak. Witnesses will speak to the press. There'll be a lot more that comes out. But honestly, I'm kind of tired of the guy.
Oh God, yeah.
I don't really. I hate to say I don't care about the case. I feel for victims, but put them away. Give them some time. The maximum is like 10 years for
10
those
each.
charges.
Yeah.
Put him in. Throw him in. Forget about him for a while. He deserves it. Just
And he
move
ain't
on.
no angel, that's for sure.
No.
So hey, how many times did we say if you got away with something, you did 10 things that you got away with? If you got nailed for one thing, there's 10 things you got away with.
Oh God, yeah, at least.
Right.
You're right.
At least
guys
10.
like him.
So again, we'll just see what he gets sentenced, and I'm sure somewhere along the line we'll have a show near there, and we'll talk about that for a little bit. But
Yep.
You know what, Dan? Let's get to this absolute horror story and case, and that's all it is. This is there's cases we've dealt with personally while we worked that are heartbreaking in this, but this got to be at the top.
They say there's no pain like losing a child, right? But there's also nothing or few things as disgusting as what they call filicide. Filicide is killing your own children.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a category that the average detective almost never, if not never, will deal with. It's not that common. It's sadly too common, but not that common.
Right.
Killing 3 of your own children, 3 beautiful little girls, and I'm going to name their names because they deserve it. Paitlin, Evelyn, and Olivia, 3 beautiful girls who were completely innocent. This guy, and now granted, we can talk all day about his problems, his mental health issues, all that stuff. He was clearly on a decline. Everybody in his world knew he was on a decline. But this is just a savage, tragic case. And it's heartbreaking. These girls did not deserve anything close to this. Nobody does.
Nope. And all they thought about that day was being with dad.
Yeah.
Being with daddy, and you think about it, it's not and here's the disturbing part on my end. It's not 1, it's 3, which means he's got to do 1 at a time.
Yeah.
So those other 2 watched, were terrified, got knocked out, whatever it might have been. Can't do all 3 at the same time.
Tied up, I think.
Which is, oh my God. It's
horrible.
You can't even fathom it. You can't put yourself in understanding it, which you never will. And I've said this before, people try to this and that and come up with excuses of why things happen. And sometimes there's just crazy. Sometimes that's it. And that's enough. You're just nuts and there's something wrong with you. And it just leads down a path that ends up like this.
What I've read about him is such that he has been on a decline for some time now. What I picked up from him in my research on him is that everybody knows he served in the military from 2013 to 2021. He had a brief time with the Ranger Regiment, didn't finish Ranger school, was ushered out of the Ranger Regiment because they have strict standards. But his father was a Green Beret, and he idolized his father, and he wanted to follow in his footsteps. That would have been a crushing blow. So that's a rough thing right there. You feel for a guy like that who dedicates his life towards something and doesn't get it. It happens, though.
Happens a lot.
Yeah. So he does that.
But you don't go out and kill your 3 kids.
Exactly. No, recently he's been on such a decline. The wife filed for divorce in 2022. Less than a year later, it was finalized with visitation ruled out. But then she had to go back to court and change the visitation. And it had a lot to do with her concerns about him.
Right.
She knew he was in a bad way. So much so that she came out through her attorney yesterday and said he needs help. Like she's trying to say that the system failed him. The VA system failed him. And that may be true. It doesn't take away responsibility for this disgusting, tragic act.
Right.
But it may very well be true.
Yeah. And, you know, the next step in this and then next conversation, and we've had these a lot as well, the court, the checking in, the, you know, all that, where was that? Like no one saw a kink in this or something that had to be addressed, or, you know, the judge, this guy being in front of them and not seeing something. You know, listen, people can masquerade with the best of them. I'm not saying that, but you would just think down at some point someone would have went, well, hold on a minute, what's going on here? You know, this isn't right. We can't leave these kids with him, or a supervised visit, or something like that, you know.
He was living in a series of cheap hotels when he had the few bucks and his car. That's
Right.
the combination. So not the best circumstances to be taking the kids for a period of time.
Right.
I'm not blaming the mother for letting them see the father. I'm not
Mm-mm.
blaming.
You can't.
No, you can't.
Can't.
You got to let kids see the parent. But how many people in his life took a look at him, like you just said, and did nothing?
Right.
Didn't pick up a phone, didn't call the VA, didn't, just, he's kind of, let's stay away from him. Just stay away from
Yep.
him.
He'll be all right.
Yeah, he'll figure it out.
He'll be all
He'll
right.
come back. Yeah, it's not my problem.
I mean,
You know,
Dan, how many shows have we done, you know, on Gold Shields with parents who saw it and friends who saw it and
right,
people themselves saw it in them getting away from them
right.
and reached out. You know, we've done numerous shows on that. That's why, you know, everyone, that's why we can talk on it, because we've heard the stories, you know, and seen the results and talked to mental health experts and, you know, all that. And like you said, you just, it's one of those you wish, you know, how many people tonight are just wishing they could go back in time because they did see something but didn't address it.
Right. And you know that it's going to weigh on people's hearts because at the end result is we have three beautiful little girls who are in God's care now, and they should be down on earth living their lives.
Right.
So one of the interesting things I found was quote from one of his fellow Army buddies who he served with, and it was kind of after he had been moved out of the Ranger Regiment to a different assignment, and he calls him this way. He says he was quote he was quiet, a bit of an outcast, yet a hard worker and a narcissist. So that's kind of a mixed bag of things to describe somebody as: hard worker, narcissist, outcast, quiet. That's a odd description of
That's a
somebody.
salad.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it
That's
is.
a salad.
That's a jumbled mix of things to describe somebody as. So obviously a complex person, right?
Right.
I don't know what else they could say about him, except like I said, his father he emulated his father. He wanted that badly. I'm sure that hurt him.
Right.
He comes out of the military and he goes into the guard and doesn't find traction in life. He doesn't find, something that he can do. He served 4 months in Afghanistan. He was deployed. So there's an element of combat stress and PTSD that very well might be there. I don't know what his service was like. And I'm not in his shoes or in his mind. But this situation now, he's on the run. So he's a survivalist. He's a trained special forces kind of guy. He apparently in the past has survived 4 months in the woods.
Yeah.
He has the skill set.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the run now, which is, it kind of takes away from the whole I have PTSD and I lost it and I'm not doing well mentally, because anybody who's rational would look at their own children that they just killed and probably take their own life because they couldn't live with it.
Right. There's a come to Jesus moment most of the time.
Right.
You know, now did that end up, did that come to Jesus moment come over him and he's no longer with us? That is definitely an option that's out there right now, because of the length of time. But you said he's done this before. He does have the tools to survive out there. And for everyone out there, it's not just looking for someone. That is extremely dangerous for law enforcement, for everyone looking for him, especially if he gets an eyeball on people coming and he's desperate, because then desperate people do really bad things. Then shootouts happen, if
yeah.
he's out somewhere and he's got to get somewhere, carjackings happen, robberies happen, all that. The longer this goes on, the more prevalent that is to happen.
Mhm.
And then more people get hurt.
Yeah, that's absolutely a possibility in this case. He is a special operator trained military professional, knows weapons, knows survival tactics, knows everything from hand to hand combat to shootouts. He knows how to do all that stuff.
Mhm.
We don't know what he has with him. We don't know what his mindset is. Like you said, he could be dead. He could have taken his life already, but nobody has showed up. They have canines and cadaver sniffing dogs and helicopters and heat seeking everything all over that area. But that's a big, vast area of Washington State, a lot of mountains, and they're going to be looking for a while. But like you said, being a cop, being part of that search team, looking for him, you have to recognize that when you find him, you may very well be in the shootout of your life.
Right. No doubt about it. You don't know what he had. They have no idea what he has with him.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
know, so that's dangerous. You know, and the longer this goes on, the more desperate it gets.
Yep.
The more desperate he's going to get. But you know, it's going to play out, and you know, like we just said, not to be callous, not to be that, but which is better? You know, you lock him up, you do a trial, or he's
Right.
dead right now. You know,
It'd
to
be
me,
merciful for the family. No, to
right,
me, you're right. If it was my family, I would want him to be dead because I don't want the trial. I don't want endlessly having to relive what happened to my loved ones, these beautiful little girls. You don't
right.
want that.
Right. And you know what? Everyone that's out there with that is suffering from PTS and goes through stuff, may have a different view of this of what he's going through. And that's I get it, because we don't know it, Dan.
Hmm.
We haven't had it. We haven't gone through that. It is a debilitating, as guests have told us, problem that has to get worked out sometimes. And it's you can't put yourself in that spot, but
Hmm.
the killing of your kids is not the solution.
No, not at all. Nothing is. And I think it'll be interesting to find out. It's been a month and a lot of stuff has been released. The media has talked about a lot of things in his life, including the last contact he had with his wife when he picked up the kids, which was, according to reports from the wife, normal.
Right.
I'll see you around 8 o'clock or something. And that was on May 30th. Um, the next day, she does an endangered missing person alert at the local police, which is the Wenatchee, Washington Police Department,
Hmm.
and they put it out there because hey, this doesn't sound good. And then 2 days after that, June 2nd, a month ago today, his truck is
Today,
found,
right?
and they identified his DNA. They identified prints that they found, probably plastic prints in the blood on the
Hmm.
fender of the car, which is shocking to think of again. And he was formally charged the day after. They lodged that charge on him to start the court action. Not that the clock is ticking, but the indictment is going to be filed, and he's, they'll, he dead or alive, he's going to be found, and he's going to
Right.
have to either face charges or he's buried. But
Hmm.
horrible tragedy, and the people up there, you have to feel for them. Anybody who lives up there, there's a search for a guy that killed his own kids. What would he do to you if you got in the way?
Right. He's not going to think twice. And that's what I mean about the desperation part.
Hmm.
That's when carjackings happen and burglaries happen and robberies happen because he needs money and he needs food, but he may have stuff that he can survive on for months. Like you said, you don't know what he has with him in backpacks and bags or
Right.
whatever it might be. Uh,
Well, how
you
many
know, s-
cases have we seen where the person has broken into a house
yeah.
and people are home and he holds them hostage or
And
he
then it's a
kills them,
hostage.
and then the crazy stuff happens. That was
Hmm.
California. That was that LAPD cop. I won't even say his name, who ended up in
Hmm.
the mountains doing that. I mean, this stuff happens.
It had,
So there's a high level of danger in that whole general area right now. He did Google about like going to Canada, entering Canada, moving to Canada, something like that.
right.
I don't know if what that plan was, but we don't know how long in advance he planned for this either. Did he stage ammunition, weapons, food, supplies someplace in the woods, thinking he would do this and then take off? Was it premeditated? We don't know.
Yep. I know. And you know what? Before we get to maybe a couple of previews of what we're coming up with, we got to give a big shout out, Dan, to our big friends
Hmm.
at Galls.com. Everyone, please check them out. Galls.com, the best the best uniform and equipment out there. And talk about a team. You know, we're going to go on with them for a little while because it's a live show and it's ours and we can do what we want.
That's right.
You know, Mike Fadden, Krista, everyone who's involved with us are the best around. You want to talk about a team and a business that supports law enforcement, man, that's it.
Big time. And ever since we've met them, and even before we met them, well, it's been an honor to get to know Mike Fadden a little bit, who has a vision for that company that is in line with what anybody that's in law enforcement or supports them wants to hear. They put their money where their mouth is. We don't just make money selling equipment to law enforcement and fire services. We back the organizations that help them. We make a public statement of standing up for them, and they give great, great customer service. Every order you buy from Galls, there's a personal note in it from Mike Fadden, the CEO, with his email saying, I want to hear from you.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
Who does that? Right.
That doesn't happen.
No, a guy with integrity does it. That's who does it.
And that just shows what law enforcement means to him. And Mike's going to be on again. We had him on one other time before we actually started to do this weekly. But Mike's going to be back on with us talking about some good updates with Galls. And the other big business is tacticalgear.com. You know, tactical gear is so important. And we just talked about it, you know, with a group of guys on a special operations group, or, you know, a SWAT team having to go up in the mountains and maybe stay there for a couple of days. You want the right gear. You want to be ready and comfortable and able to do your job at a moment's notice. And tacticalgear.com provides all that. Amazing, another company that we're so proud to be part of, and they're part of us. So thank you to those big companies that mean the world to us. And like I said, everyone, you're going to see Mike Fadden pretty soon.
Yeah, and you'll be happy to see him. We're looking forward to getting together with them again in the near future and doing some work with them on a few things. We'll leave that as it is, as a teaser. But they're just a phenomenal company. You know, we also work with a lot of other companies, and not to get too crazy with it, but I'm wearing my Fairline Services hat right now, Fairline Security Services, fairlineservices.com. Look them up. Anything you need security, anything. Great people.
Yep. You know, next week, I think we're going to dive into this craziness going on with the mayor's race in New York City. And I think we're going to have a special guest if it all works out.
Okay.
I'm not even telling you.
All right. Yeah. Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
How do you like that, everyone? Dan even just got the breaking news because it just
happens like that sometimes. Yeah. It's okay.
But I think that is definitely a topic that me and you especially have to start talking about.
You know, and you can't have no opinion on it. Frankly, if you're from New York and your heart is there and you care about the people of the city, you can't have no opinion on it, because what's going on there is a 3-ring circus. And there's just a guy there that he's poison if he gets elected.
Yeah,
just poison.
Oh, we're gonna have one hell of a discussion next week. Just as long as it all works out, but we should know in a couple of days if it's going to.
You got to listen next week, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to listen, because this guest is gonna knock you out of your socks.
All we're gonna do is go ahead. And just kind of sit back and let it go. But that's a good tease. Yep. So, what do you think, Dan? That was a full show.
That really was. You know, a lot of stuff going on. We're glad we get a chance to touch on this stuff. Thank you for joining us, those who have joined us this Wednesday night. This is becoming a regular thing we're doing now, Law and Disorder. And there's a million pieces of things out there that we can talk about. We don't want to always just do the high-profile cases. We will find stuff that's interesting to us and explain certain things to you that you guys might not understand about that kind of stuff. And we will learn things along the way too. But there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the world of law and criminal justice in this country. And we're going to try to bring to you updates and our insight into it. Right, Tom?
Right. And we want to hear from you. You could do it a number of ways. We're all over social media. Hit us up. Send us a message on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, thegoldshieldShow.com, contacts drop down. Shoot us an email. And don't forget about Gold Shields. This is Law and Disorder. Great. Don't forget about Gold Shields. ThegoldshieldShow.com. Check the website out and check us out weekly on YouTube and every audio channel you can think of, and some we don't even know about. And you know what? While we're on, and we got a couple of more seconds, thank you to our group that we have working with us. We have a team that is nonstop all the time doing stuff for us and our show, and we can't thank them enough. And too bad they're not going to like it, but I don't really give a damn. Ovette, Taylor, and Lily, thank you so much for everything you do for us. Means the world to us, and we see what you're doing. So thank you.
Because if without that, Tom, you and me trying to figure out how to log in, microphones that didn't work, we wouldn't have, everything would be a mess. But
actually, like the beginning of 3 years ago.
Yeah, when we first started, I was just talking to somebody just early today, and they said, "Oh, I'm loving the podcast. I'm up to like episode 7." I said, "Oh, if you love it, then you're really gonna like it.
You're really gonna love it."
77, because we were just bumbling, and we figured it out. But we talk all the time about how lucky we are, how blessed we are. The show has been taken off. We have financial sponsors and partners all over the place, and we're so lucky. And we have these great team, our little small mighty team. But I mean, we get 3 people working on this show with us on top of us. I mean,
yeah,
I still can't believe we even do it. Never mind we have that, but
and a lot has to do with the 3 of them. For sure.
They're awesome. Their ideas, they don't just do something we tell them to do. They come up with all the ideas for the cool graphics and all kinds of stuff and how you should do that and do this. And then we just sit back and go, tell us.
Okay.
We'll do it.
That's my text back to them. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, I did this and that. Okay.
In life, when somebody knows more than you about something, shut your mouth and let them do it. That's the best way to go,
So listen, till next week. Again, big shout out, goals.com, tacticalgear.com. Check them out. Support them. They support us. Big part of our family, not just the show, their family.
Yep.
So check out those 2 websites and support them as well. And the goldshieldShow.com. Dan, it was a pleasure again, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, how about this one little plug? Carryimpact.com. Carryimpact.com. Buy yourself some of the best, less lethal tool you can get. As a consumer, a cop, security officer, it's taken off across the country. And Tom, we know the guys that own that company, don't we?
Yeah, they're 2 guys. They kind of look like us a little bit.
But... yeah, they're not as smart, without a doubt. Do yourself a favor, look into it. We have a keychain out right now. Can we talk about that?
Just came out. Yeah, it's up on the website now. You're going to see some promos on it soon.
That's
keychain.
But we have a keychain size.
Yep, keychain's the best one out there. So carryimpact.com, like Dan said, check us out. Dan, have a great night. Have a great 4th of July.
Thank you. You too.
And I will actually see you next week. We actually get to be in the same place.
Again.
For a change.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's right. We got a bunch of recording. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Have a great night, Tom. Have a great 4th to the Smith family and to all our listeners. Thank you. We love you. We wouldn't be anything here without you, and keep listening.
And like always, everyone, stay safe out there. Pray for your law enforcement officers and the military and first responders. Keep them in your prayers. Keep them in your thoughts. Everyone stay safe. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Awesome.